Hunter Schafer, It Girl Hunter Schafer, is this new movie it? That's the question today. Hi, my name is Kylie, but I also go by Haunted Hippie or the Antichrist. It's really good to have you here. If you enjoy celebrating Halloween all year round, then click subscribe, join our little cult, click the like button, the notification bell, that way you never miss the next video. I talk all things horror, and today I've got a review for you. We gotta talk about Cuckoo. I actually don't really see that many people talking about it right now, and it's a movie that demands to be talked about because it is so weird. Like, good weird, I think. First, I'm gonna get into all my spoiler-free thoughts, and then we will get into a spoiler section because it's just kind of impossible to talk about this movie in any type of depth without talking about the story. First of all, just sort of my general feelings on the movie. What I see a lot of people saying on, especially like Letterboxd, is that, oh, they had me in the first half, really enjoyed the first half, third act is a mess, whatever. I felt the complete opposite. The first half of the movie, I would say, I found to be kind of generic, and I found it really hard to latch on to anything. They open up so many plot threads that it feels really difficult to get your bearings. It's hard to tell which ones are actually important enough to like keep track of. And I didn't find that changed very much by the end of the movie. I did find that quite a few of those threads did find their way to one another, and they wrapped up pretty nicely. There was a lot that wasn't, but the way that my experience was different to other people's, I guess a lot of people did kind of enjoy how like the mystery was set up, and they didn't mind like how much was going on. I was feeling a little bit bored and a little bit lost by the first half of the movie, and then once we got into the third act, that is when this thing leveled up. I found the first half to be very generic. There were very few of those plot threads that I found to be like super fascinating, super worth getting invested into, you know? And then when I was finally able to figure that out, that's when I was feeling really involved, because the explanations for so many different things in this movie were just off the wall, and I have to commend it for that. I have to, you know, like get it, like be weird. I like it. But the way that some of these outlandish things were set up initially, I found them to be pretty goofy. Also, initially, I was very frustrated by what I felt like was the underutilization of Hunter Schafer. It became very clear to me, like when her performance shifted in the second half, that first half, the way that she was performing was very intentional, because initially her character just seems like this really subdued person, and I was like, oh great, like they're not gonna give her anything interesting to do in this movie. They also initially seemingly are setting her up as this very like archetypal shitty teenage type, the type that wants to act out and run away and just, you know, hole up in their room playing music, whatever. There is a lot more under the surface, and I grew to appreciate that. But one of the big mic drops with her character and a big reveal actually was like a super generic horror trope. I actually can commend them for presenting a very tired trope in a unique way. But speaking of Hunter Schafer, besides the first half of this movie, she is the beating heart of this film. By the end, I felt so drawn in by her character. Don't worry if you're feeling bored in the first half, you do get to experience a lot of range with her, and I felt like they used Hunter Schafer almost to her full potential. Because it is a horror movie, I don't feel that this is very spoilery, but there are some scenes where like she's really got to take charge. I love the close-ups that we get on her because you just can see how much work she's doing with like these little subtle movements in her face where there's a really heightened emotion playing, but she's having to play it very calm. She just gets those kind of like intricacies in her performance. Then you get to see the other end of that spectrum where she's like totally breaking down, but it's still in a moment where she's having to remain composed because she's in a horror situation, you know, she's trying to get herself out, and she somehow retains this like softness to her because part of the movie is like the development of her relationship with this other person. Also, if you get the chance, I would listen to her interview on Call Her Daddy. I literally started listening to that podcast because of her. There were some clips that went viral online, and I didn't really know much about that podcast before. Now I am hooked. But anyway, she talks about how acting just sort of fell into her lap, that Euphoria was this like crazy fluke, and she just somehow kept getting auditions because she was into modeling before that. And I've never seen Euphoria, but I do understand that she kills it on that show. Anyway, this was then her first film after being in the television world for a couple years. Yes, the new Hunger Games, it came out before this movie, but she shot this one first. So for her first film performance as well, I just think she's breathtaking. Obviously, it girl. Another reason why I think the first act felt a little bit tiring to me was it just was a really kind of common setup. Family moves to a new house, that's like the baseline. Like, okay, we've been there a million times in horror. I didn't mind that because it was quite a bit different. You know, they move all the way out to Germany. It's never explicitly stated, but I'm pretty sure that like her mom was from the States, her dad is German, and she's going to live with her dad and his new wife and their daughter. So there's also that kind of point of contention. Oh, she's the angsty teen having to deal with her stepmom and stuff like that. The setting just felt a little bit barren. It just felt a little bit sterile. I think that was purposeful because it is supposed to be an isolating experience, especially for our lead character, and so we're probably supposed to feel that way watching the movie. Initially, I was kind of feeling like, oh, this lacks a bit of energy. It felt very purposeful once you got to know the lead, and like she was dying to get away from this situation, and it's like, oh my god, no shit. Unfortunately, the feelings that were meant to come across from the lead were kind of leaking into me, where I was feeling sort of the same way. But we broke out of that. We broke free of that, and I thought the third act was so fun. Thanks in large part to the man himself, Dan Stevens. I don't know why this is his year, but we got Godzilla x Kong, we got Abigail, and now this. And in this movie, this beautiful man is putting on this crazy German accent. Is it consistent? No. Do I care? No. I have to give him props. He's not fully putting on that like stereotypical kind of old Hollywood fake German accent. Sometimes it does sound kind of authentic. It's just a little bit inconsistent. I say that because I have family in Germany and I got to visit them every couple of years. They do not sound like this, okay? They are not going, oh yes, I would like some watermelon. That's not how they sound. I can't even like do it. It's so dumb. But Dan Stevens is like, Gretchen, yes, welcome. Yes, welcome to our place. I can't even do a good like German accent either. It does not matter what role he's doing. Dan Stevens manages to be having the most fun of anybody on set. If that's not true and he's like a menace to work with or something, that would break my heart, but I don't think that's the case, because the performances he delivers are just always so fun. And he really, I think, brought life to the more serious tone of this movie, because there were certain moments that they were absolutely going for some comedic relief, and I thought they worked really well. Also props to Hunter Schafer for that too. She was really funny in this movie. There are only a couple of like, not even like set up punchline type jokes, but moments that are clearly meant for some levity, and I thought that they were pulled off super well. So props to the director, the editing as well. Without Dan Stevens, I fear that I might have enjoyed this movie quite a bit less. Yes, we have Hunter Schafer, she's our girl, but like it really needed that balance, because I'm telling you, like I just was not having it the first half. Part of it was because they, well, first of all, were setting up so much, but part of what they were setting up was making the big reveal a little bit too obvious. Though I don't know how they would have gotten around that, because there were parts of the reveal I absolutely did not see coming, and upon a rewatch I feel like I'm gonna feel really stupid. Maybe let me know your experience with that if you have seen the movie already. Was the entirety of the reveal super obvious to you? Because I was really just focused on the one element of it, that when we got the full picture I was like, oh whoa, okay, I had not thought of that. Even so, I wish that what the subgenre of this film was kind of held off for a while. I had the exact same complaint about Abigail, actually. This movie just had a little bit of a problem with when to show its cards. If there is a movie that I think held its cards perfectly, it would probably be James Wan's *Malignant*. I know there are people that would hate that movie and they'd be like, no, a movie that did that perfectly would be like Fight Club. And okay, like whatever, sure, you can be right about that. We can both be right, it's okay. This movie I don't think was doing that super well, because it just kept throwing so much at us, and there were some elements of the reveal that I just did not find necessary. Like I think this movie could have been trimmed down a little bit and could have made the reveal maybe even that much more impactful. As it was, I had a really good time. I only gave this movie 3 stars. I thought that it had a little bit of an identity crisis just with how much they were throwing at me. But at the end of it all, I thought that it was still a really good effort. I had a really fun time watching it in theaters. I feel bad because, like, yes, everything came together very well for me, and by the end of the movie, I was feeling much more positively about it, but I cannot deny how kind of tired I was by the first half. I've said it too many times, I'm sorry, but that's another reason why I could not justify giving it any more than 3 stars. Star for Hunter Schafer, star for Dan Stevens, star for just how batshit insane this attempt of a movie was. There are good sequences, don't get me wrong, and they definitely tried new things. It was very unique. I just think that some of it was kind of a swing and a miss, but I'm really, really excited to see what this writer and director does next. Tillman Singer seems relatively new on the scene, and so I hope this gets him some attention, maybe from some, you know, more major studios or something, and maybe he gets a bigger budget. I would love for him to be funded by Neon again, or maybe A24 will steal him, who knows. Hunter Schafer did say in her Call Her Daddy interview that she saw the movie Loose, and that was what made her fall in love with this director, and why she knew that she had to do this project, so I have thrown that one on my watch list. And if you liked Cuckoo, then maybe you can too. But that will do it for my spoiler-free recommendations. We've got to talk about the plot of this movie a bit, because I just was being so vague, and I get so annoyed with myself when I get really repetitive when I'm trying to avoid spoilers. So no more. Let's do a little plot breakdown. Looking back, I feel like the cold open is a lot more interesting. At the time, I was like, are we ever gonna get back to this girl? Like, I don't know. But after that, I actually don't really know where to begin with this setup because, like I said, there's just so much going on. So they're moving to this resort with Herr König. He's overseeing them. He hires Gretchen. I love how he says Gretchen. And all this weird stuff starts to happen, okay? There are multiple women that are stumbling into this little lobby shop or whatever, and they're vomiting. Her little sister, or she's not my sister, Alma, she starts having seizures. And then there's also this strange hot woman that she played the mermaid in Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides. Very pretty lady, and obviously Gretchen thinks so too. She also has this encounter with a hooded woman while she's on her bike, and we start to hear some of like the screeching and stuff. So initially, that was one of the cards that I wish that they withheld. I wish that we got to see all of this weird stuff happening without getting the image of this very strange looking woman. I wish they withheld the monster from us a little bit. I wanted to feel a little bit more in the dark because I was like, oh, well, okay, so there's not going to be like a fun reveal with this. It's feeling a bit predictable. You know, this is not going to be so fun. They're going to get me desensitized to this villain figure. And also, I did not like the look of her. I wish that they had gone for more of a practical look, especially in like the first act of the movie. I feel like they really CGI'd kind of like her mouth and her eyes and stuff. And later on when they do like the full face reveal, I think that was pretty much just practical, besides maybe they like stretched her mouth and stuff. But initially I was like, it's giving like early 2000s kind of like cheesiness. Though I did think that the sequence while she was on her bike, I thought that was really good. But then I maybe would have left it at that. I don't know if I would have had her like go to the hospital and oh, nobody believes her. That's a tired trope. I don't love that. I also wish that the women throwing up had been a little bit more of a subtle element, something that maybe it could have been like a light bulb moment upon a rewatch, because as it is, that place is so empty. There's nobody there. Like the only people that are just strolling in and out are like half naked and throwing up. So obviously something is very, very, very weird and wrong at this place. I wish that they could have populated this resort a little bit more, and I think it would have made Herr König seem like a little bit more of an intelligent villain. What I maybe would have preferred is that like while Gretchen is working, there are several people milling about, waiting in line, and maybe somebody throwing up just like catches her eye. Initially, I don't want that to seem weird because like I do think that it should happen twice. I think the 1-2 punch of that, like, I just feel like it could have been more effective if the first time it was way more subtle. And then when it happens again, then I would want Gretchen to kind of start piecing things together. But as it is, both instances are very, very alarming. And then there's this Detective Henry, and I could have done without his character entirely. It is nothing even really like against the character. It is nothing against the actor. Absolutely not. It's just another person that does not need to be there. Why don't you just make Gretchen be like this super bored, angsty teenager that's coming up with conspiracies to try to just like deal with her situation? Or at least just bring him in later, because he plays into the final showdown wonderfully. And at that point, I'm like, ah, yes, this character has a purpose. But before that, it's just like there's just so many moving parts. Oh my god. Because also, when she tries to run away with this gorgeous older lesbian to Paris, we're dealing with the whole time loop thing. And by this point, I think it's maybe like the third or fourth, no, I think like third sequence of this time loop thing happening. That is really fun and unique. Earlier, I was saying like they took some big swings and they were unique, they were new. However, I don't need it. What do you mean? A creature that like gets you stuck in a time loop? Girl, what are you talking about? That's when I feel like this movie is doing a little bit too much. And also it was giving me, trauma, flashbacks, echoes to Slender Man. Do you guys remember this part?
Hey, come here.
I'm sorry that I just made you watch that. But do you get my point? Like, in a movie that is in no way, shape, or form connected to any kind of like time travel, it felt out of place. Like, it just, in like the physics of it, it was just a little too much for me to suspend my disbelief. And I hate to be that guy. I always want to be the guy that's like, it's fun, it's a movie. Movies are about saying, well, what if? This creature was interesting enough on its own. I would have preferred that it debilitated its victims with this screech and maybe just like disoriented them. Maybe it caused them to start having double vision. I don't know. I guess maybe you could even play with a little hallucination or something. The time loop thing is crazy. The only part of this movie that allowed me to like somewhat accept that was just like this tiny, like totally throwaway line. When Koenig is like, yes, we're preserving these ancient beings or something. And that throwaway line is just like in the middle of this spiel about like, I don't know how their experiment is going or how they reproduce or something. So I'm like, well, okay, this is about ancient beings now? Like, what's going on? Let me back up though, because right before then, there is the grand reveal that Gretchen's mom is dead. And that was what I was praising earlier. Like, hey, way to take a really tired horror trope, the dead mom trope, and make it fresh. Make it a big reveal rather than having it be like the baseline info that we have about a character. I thought that thread was really well handled. All of the thematic stuff about family, I thought was handled beautifully. There just was like so much other noise going on that was a bit of a distraction, but I did find that like all the thematic undertones, I was like, mwah, wonderful. Also because it's about sisterhood, and that hits me in a personal spot. Okay, I'm somebody who's adopted, and I do have an adoptive sister, and the third act is really about them coming together. I just didn't realize that was the thematic thread that I was supposed to be following in the first half. On a rewatch, I think that's where I'll put my focus to make it like more of a satisfying watching experience. Now, would I personally be interested in besistering a half human, half ancient cuckoo beast? That I cannot say for sure, but I thought that it was really sweet of Gretchen to decide that that's what she was gonna do. Seemed very noble given this child's abilities and what she would grow into. But I thought that it raised kind of like an important question about nurture versus nature and found family, chosen family. I loved the whole showdown. I think that was the highlight of Hunter Schafer's performance when she is just crying to her sister. And then the face-off where she's hugging her sister and there's the two men on either end, each with different motives and would kill the other on the other side. I don't think I've seen that done before. I'm sure that it's been done in like some iconic action or drama that I've failed to see. Thought that moment was rife with tension. It was so well acted. I adored it. And then when both the guns go off, ooh, so good, so good. Now, what happened to their parents? No idea. I don't know. Do you guys know? Because her stepmom started feeling sick and then we never saw them again. Was there a deleted scene? Am I not supposed to care? I thought that they were running away from everybody and everything because like, oh, well, we can't trust our parents now. Like, what if they're in on this thing? But it was to my understanding that the parents didn't really know what was going on. Like when their daughter was like being tested and stuff like that, and then she started feeling sick. I don't know. You let me know. What's your interpretation? It just felt like kind of in an effort to ramp up the stakes and the drama of what was going on, they opened up even more threads that just got lost and kind of like forgotten about. Also, why did the Cuckoo monster look like Gretchen's mom? What? Let me reword this so as not to be monstrously repetitive. There was not a lack of stuff going on, that's for sure. Like, holy hell, this movie was crazy. It was so weird. The fact that that strange woman is the one that ends up driving them away? Okay, Texas Chainsaw Massacre reference with a Hunter bloody in the back seat. I liked that. But like, this woman, this stranger, this beautiful lesbian, like, what was her deal? I don't know. If you couldn't tell, I have thought of this movie for many days after seeing it in theaters. I'm still trying to put some things together. I don't know if I'll be able to go see it in theaters again, even though I would like to. On a second viewing, I think that my experience would probably be better, just like being able to pick up on more things, not feeling so lost, like, oh my god, there's so much to keep track of. I'm sure that this is the type of movie that will just keep getting better, but there is a lot of stuff coming out. We got Strange Darling, there's Alien Romulus that just came out. We got Beetlejuice in a few weeks. I still haven't seen Deadpool and Wolverine, which, am I gonna do that to myself? I don't know. So these are all the thoughts of mine that we've got to work with as of right now. I would love to know your thoughts too down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Let's put our tinfoil hats on. Let's conspiracize. If you want to talk about other recent releases, I have reviewed plenty of 2024 horror films on this channel. I also do horror deep dives. I do original versus remakes. I do franchise deep dives, director deep dives. There is fun for the whole family on this channel. Same with my second channel. What? Yes, I have a second channel. It's where I talk about physical media and where I post my travel vlogs. I also have a Patreon, and there are different tiers of lots of different types of bonus content for you to enjoy. Depending on which tier, you get a guaranteed weekly bonus video. And if you're really obsessive, then all my social media is also linked down below. But more than anything, I just hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope I catch you in the next one. Bye!